Whatever this thing was, he was determined to get a healthy cutting. 20 minutes passed, 30. It was dark now. This place had only moonlight. The wind was getting stronger, and now there were dust devils that twirled in tight circles and rose up to the sky. It was a sure sign a monsoon was coming. Surprisingly, out of the center of the field, he saw a flicker of light, a lone flame click on, sustain, and disappear. The smell of tobacco swirled with the other scents. He might as well enjoy a cigarette while he waited. He rose and set out for the light. The wind was furious, running, playing, chasing its own tail, unceasing. It made the farmer's eyes tear as he fought to reach his destination. He could see a cigarette moving to unseen lips. It turned cherry red as the person inhaled, and then it relaxed back into orange. He leaned forward into the wind, increasing his force to gain passage. Finally, he reached the realm of the smoking shadow, when all at once, the wind abruptly stopped. For a few seconds, there was a pause of smells returning to their sources, slipping back into their pure rivers of scent. The odor suddenly reclaimed him, slammed him. It was so strong, so extremely close. It wrapped around the farmer and strangled his lungs with its potence. Off-footed and inhaling viciously, the farmer stepped on his left foot. The shadow said something. He stood unhearing, confused, drunk on the scent, balancing precariously on his left foot. His eyes strained to make out the crouching figure, to make sense of this. He wanted to bite this scent, to suck all the taste out of it. He wanted to mash it against his cheek and spread it on his belly. The shadow handed him a freshly rolled cigarette. It clicked a silver lighter that was engraved with a bird perched on the letter C. The spark lit up their faces. He was expecting to see the face of an old man in this nighttime loneliness, but it was a she, all browns and beiges. He glimpsed her for an instant, the time it takes to light a cigarette. She seemed to not quite see him, as if something else had her attention. He drew hard on the cigarette. The smell, this was her scent. His mind obsessively raced forward, thinking this must be what the inside of her body smelled like. And he wanted to claw her open to reach its purity, to dip his head in her blood and entrails. He pulled on the cigarette again, filling his lungs with the smoke and filling his nostrils with her. The tobacco relaxed his body and his fanaticism. They said nothing to each other. The wind and dust blew. He watched her. He wished it was a plant that exuded the smell, something he could nurture and dominate. A thing that stayed where it was put, something he could chop and regenerate over and over again. His eyes were still on her when she tangled her fingers in her hair and pulled it skyward so the wind blew over her neck. That newly exposed freshness sent him reeling again. She was a simmering piece of meat. He didn't feel himself turn. He only heard the wind in his ears. He was lightheaded and lost. And then he felt the warm give of skin on his forehead. With the violence of a knife, he had his nose to her neck. He deeply inhaled, aware of the quickening beat of a vein under his lips. She didn't flinch. He didn't expect her to. There was something about this night. The farmer in him knew it. The farmer in him felt that he had as much right as the wind to touch her. And then he realized this absolutely. This was why she was here. She had been unmovingly making love to the wind and sky before he showed up. She was being touched by the elements, licked and pushed by the wind, mounted by the sky and dust. And he was just one more. The farmer in him knew it. He could smell it. In this monsoon season, she was perfectly ripe to be affected. He could not hold back the absolute raw maturity of action, the surety of the situation, the acceptance of what they were both doing here. His face pushed up against her neck, behind her ear, down her throat, between her breasts. She moved with him. It all moved with them. The wind, the sky, the moon, the weeds. They gave and took with the abandonment, ferocity, and greed of children. 2 night beings caught up in a dust devil. They were spinning. Up was down, down was up. They tumbled. They couldn't get close enough. She bit his lip. He bruised her thigh. Their bodies rode and triumphed over each other, and within their groans, their scent became one. They were breathless, regaining their vision, staring half naked into the dark. Their hearts slowed. She rolled 2 cigarettes and clicked the lighter. Through their long inhales, their blood began to cool, and the passing tingle of satisfaction finally rested the hair on their arms. It was now the dark hours of morning. Without speaking, he reached for her hand, and they walked to his farm. Inside his one-room shack, they bathed and tried to sleep, but caught themselves making love while dreaming, waking up attached at the thigh. All night they drowned and were reborn. Their scents perfumed the room. It clung to the walls and molested the towels in the bathroom. At sunrise, the farmer rose from his bed and made biscuits. They sat unclothed, eating at his worn wooden table in peaceful silence, as if life had always been this way. They went to the field and put the beautiful birthday bell around the red ox's neck. The farmer showed the woman his land. She saw his growing fields. They ate under the hollow crabapple tree and watched a snake hide at its base. As late afternoon came, they walked back to his house, ate supper together, and then he walked her back to the city. When they arrived at her threshold, they paused, looking at each other. Neither had words. He wanted to give her something that marked their time together. The farmer removed his left shoe and extended it to her. She looked at the shoe, curiously at first, then slowly smiled and accepted. She understood. Now every year, when the monsoons draw close, you will find the farmer wearing only one shoe, his right shoe, drawing back the keeper of the left.